Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's just like every other Sean, only blue. Sweet Sean's a Kovacs from the internet.
Please, we are friends. Call me Blue Sean.
And he's often imitated, but thankfully never duplicated, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and it just doesn't get any better than this, does it?
Well, maybe it can, and maybe it can. Who knows? Well, welcome back to Hero Movie Podcast, everybody. This week we are talking about the Doctor Strange movie that never was. From Charles Band and Full Moon Pictures, we're talking Dr. Mordrid. A movie that I did not know existed until...
Oh, neat. I'm glad I was able to broaden your horizons.
I'm in the same boat as Adam there. I didn't know this was a thing.
But when you see who's involved and stuff, you're like, all right, we're going to give this a shot because one way or another, this thing could be super, super great or super, super awful. When it's Full Moon Pictures, sometimes you're flipping a little bit of a coin and you usually end up busted more times than not. But
it's true. I will tell you that this movie is very specifically why I am on this podcast. It is exactly when we were saying, hey, let's do a podcast about superhero movies. This was one of the things where I was like, golly gee, I sure hope one day we'll get to review Dr. Mordrid. And here we are.
Oh man, dreams do come true.
They do.
Yeah. Now, and so Dr. Mordrid, for those of you that don't know, we'll get into it as the show kind of progresses and everything, is kind of a ripoff of Doctor Strange.
Kind of,
just loosely. If you look close,
loosely inspired by.
If you close your eyes, really,
Doctor Strange. It is literally Doctor Strange.
It's like saying "Inherit the Wind" is loosely inspired by the Scopes Monkey trial.
It could be. You never know. But we'll get to all the differences and what happened and all that kind of good stuff. Before we do all that, though, we do want to say a big thank you to people that support us over at Patreon.com/HMP. Doesn't matter what level you support the show at. Pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And of course, this week we talked about the movies that we are going to have for our Patreon selection. Every single month, we come up with 5 selections, and you guys, our Patreon supporters, no matter what level you're at, vote on that movie, and that is the movie that we will watch that month. And sometimes they're great, sometimes they're awful, but you guys like putting us through the ringer sometimes, and that's kind of fun.
And sometimes they're really, really gracious and let us see something great.
Oh yeah, that's true. We should definitely pat them on the back. Because every now and then.
We made that a statistical impossibility this month, though, so that's on us.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so all of the times where it's been like something good where you're like, oh, you get to watch this fine film. Not this month, no sir. So here are the selections that we have for our Patreon vote. And it's based kind of on this Dr. Mordrid idea, which is ripoffs. So all of these are going to be ripoffs of other properties and stuff like that. So first up, we have Thor, Hammer of the Gods. If you're not sure what that is, just imagine the Asylum said, hey, Zachary Ty Bryant from Home Improvement, we would like you to be Thor. If that sounds like an idea for you, Thor, Hammer of the Gods is probably a good one. Next up is Metal Man, which you might put together is more like Iron Man. Kind of looks like it looks a little. What was the Guyver? You remember when we reviewed that way back?
Guyver, man, that was a fun watch.
Got a little Guyverness going on to it. There's another one called Rise of the Black Bat. That's our third choice. Essentially, it's like Batman meets Daredevil, but if the Batman cowl just had the ears just erased off of it, that's what he looks like. And I guess he's got a gun, according to the poster. The Grim Avengers is another one that we've brought up a lot of times in Patreon votes. It's gotten some votes, but now we're going to see if it can go again. And it's actual, I don't know if it's an actual sequel or not, and that's what's kind of worrying me about seeing it out of order and everything.
Out of order.
You're worried about this.
Out of order.
This is my territory, Adam, and I'm cool with it.
You can't
You're
machete
lucky
these
I can't
things.
Curse
you
on
know what
this
I'm
show.
saying?
You're lucky I can't curse at you on this show. I'd be cursing at you right now.
Wait, do I have a bleep button still? Nope, that one doesn't work. Okay. Thought maybe there it is.
Hey.
The Sinister Squad, which is pretty much like the Suicide Squad, but did not, right?
But more sinister.
With fairy tales.
With fairy tale kind of things. Like, if you've ever thought to yourself, oh, I want to see, what's his name there? The gold spinning guy?
Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin.
But I'll tell you what, it's like Harley Quinn Harley Quinn doesn't do it for me, but Goldilocks, now you're talking. That's right. Sinister Squad.
So all those movies will be up for our Patreon supporters to sway in one way or the other. And you know what's nice about it is in the Patreon section, everybody will vote for what they're talking about and everything, and their reason why. A lot of people will fight for what they want and everything. So, like, I love it. I'm just coming in and saying, hey, this is why you need to be voting for this one. So you can try to sway the minds of others as well. Do all that good stuff. Patreon.com/HMP. And we'll have a new Patreon supporter coming up early next week with a brand new nickname and all that kind of good stuff. Please do that. And if you can't support us over at patreon.com/HMP, go on down to the iTunes or anywhere else that you can review this podcast. Give us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger. And we'd really appreciate it. It helps get the show out, and almost 8 years going into this thing, man. And it is because of you guys, sharing the word and getting it all out there, man. We really appreciate that. Let's get into it, boys and girls. Here, believe it or not, is the trailer for Dr. Mordrid.
What?
Oh, yeah.
In a Manhattan apartment, Dr. Anton Mordrid has stood guard between our world and the dark dimensions. Now, after centuries of waiting, evil's ultimate warrior has arrived.
Cabal is a demon who uses mortals to do his bidding.
What difference does it make if I want this dying planet?
A sorcerer is not a god. It would be beyond the apocalypse.
Our powers can be amusing.
This man's gotta die!
Dr. Mordrid, master of the unknown.
How exciting does that trailer sound compared to the movie that we
It
watched?
sounds pretty awesome for a trailer.
They throw everything in there, like they have this giant hype score, and they threw everything to 11 to make you think that not that it's, we'll get into it, but boy, oh boy, do they sell it super hard in that trailer. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do we got?
What do you guys want from me this week? I mean, seriously, what do you want from me? This thing is not a comic book. I mean, it's a ripoff of Doctor Strange. We've established that it's not just a ripoff of Doctor Strange, but at one point, Full Moon had the license to make a Doctor Strange movie. They lost the license, but they made the movie anyway. So should I talk about Doctor Strange? I've already done that twice. Do I really want to do it a third time for this movie? I could talk about the fact that the villain Cabal, I'm going to guess he was probably Baron Mordo before they had to change all the names. Like, I could talk about him, I suppose. But I've already talked about Baron Mordo again. Should I talk about him again? No. We could talk about those eyeballs up in the sky. I don't know. Was that supposed to be a watcher? Was that supposed to be? It's not Dormammu. I don't know who those eyes are supposed to be. I don't even know in the world of Doctor Strange necessarily who those eyes were supposed to be. The fact that the ancient one kind of looks like the old Crusader Knight from the Last Crusade Indiana Jones movie. Like, what's the deal with him? His eyeballs were burned out like Caecilius in the Doctor Strange movie we got a few years back. What am I supposed to say about this? This is absurd, which is, of course, why we like watching it. But if you're looking for a Dr. Mordrid comic book, I don't think you're going to find it. Full Moon has a nice line of comic books for things like, what's that? Evil Bong,
Yeah.
Ginger Dead Man, Doll Man, I think maybe even had his own comic. But they know they're not going to push their luck. Like, you can get away with making the movie, but you make the rip-off Doctor Strange comic book. Well, Perlmutter's showing up at your house, and he's got a billy club and a bad attitude, and you don't want that. So, I don't know. Speaking of billy clubs and bad attitudes, Adam, get us a list, because this is my biggest failure for Comic Book Connection so far.
That's okay. That sounded like a report I would give in high school. I love it. Well, if that Comic Connection wasn't enough for you, let me sell everybody on this Full Moon Doctor Strange ripoff, because let me tell you something. This movie has everything. It's a Full Moon production with Jeffrey Combs. We got Fabio meets PC Principal, Discount Tia Carrere and Lorenzo Lamas, Edgar Allan Crow, Crow, you guys. Come on.
I love it.
We got unnecessary candles, a giant cappuccino machine, floating space eyes, blue Doctor Strange. We're in Brazil. How do you know? Jesus statue. That's how. Trunks painted silver, custom elixir suitcase, a Harry Potter reference, stock footage, Elvis robes, an old lady in a nightgown, night mask, and curlers, a Zach Morris amulet, 9. Count them, 9 32-inch television monitor wall, a giant world map, baby button eyes, son of a sorcerer, astral projection, chowder buckets plus is what I'm calling it, glass knives to the chest, indoor smoking, glowing blue rocks, a stop motion T-Rex skeleton that eats people and then battles a skeleton triceratops. That's a real thing that happened in a full movie picture, and it wasn't completely awful. Scroll deciphering on that thing that you used to read newspapers on at the library, and and they don't stop there. No. We got more stop motion, a commercial break in the movie for some reason, and I don't know why, but Tubi didn't insert an actual commercial into that spot. Step up your game, Tubi. We've got gum chewing, broad splaining, window exploding, lecturing, out loud thinking, book blazing, house floating, brain melting, hypnotizing, lightning fingers, an invincibility spell that will make you say, why doesn't everyone get one of these every day? And the widest hallways and ceilings you'll have ever seen. This movie has everything.
That was amazing, Adam.
That might be your best list yet.
I think it is.
I'm with Sean on that.
I think it is. So let me tell you my history with this movie. So my buddy, when I first moved to Charlotte, I lived in an apartment complex, and it just so happened that this guy that I had met through comedy, even though he himself wasn't a comedian, lived in the same apartment complex that I lived in. And so he's like, hey, you should come over. So I did. I went over, and he had a laser disc player, which was insane to me that this guy had a laser disc player. And he had the entire Full Moon catalog on Laserdisc.
I'm impressed that even exists to have in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why he had it was because he had done some work for Full Moon.
Oh.
And so they paid him almost nothing, and they gave him a laser.
They paid him in laser discs.
They
I like
basically
it.
did. They
We like to
basically
pay
did.
in merch.
What's the scale in laser discs? 4 discs per day is the scale.
So
That's a meal penalty. We're taking that disc back.
he had, well, that's not the way meal penalties work. It's
Aye.
pro worker. So the guy, my buddy's name is Patrick, and Patrick says to me, I have not even gone, I haven't even come remotely close to seeing all of these movies. I never will, because he's like he was kind of a horror guy a little bit, but he was more of like, keep in mind, this is during the Tarantino era, like Pulp Fiction had just come out, and he was all about anything like that. Like independent movie crime story. That was his jam. It didn't matter how bad it was. That was his thing. And Full Moon was not producing those things at the time. And so he was like, if you want to, you can borrow. And I was like, I don't have a laser disc player, dude. And he's like, but I mean, if you want to see these, like take a couple of them and take the laser disc player. And, he only had a few other than the Full Moon box set. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, all right. So I'm looking through them, and that's where I found Tallman. And that is where I found Dr. Mordrid. And that is where I found Puppet Master. And, there's a couple other things, but those were the 3 big ones that I remember. And so watching Dr. Mordrid, at the time, I didn't know enough about Doctor Strange to know just how much of a ripoff this movie is. But I do remember thinking to myself, this is a whole lot like Doctor Strange, I think.
You could have used me in your life back then, Sean. I would have helped explain.
Well, that's true of every era.
Excuse me, I would like to explain to you now.
I remember very distinctly that I had never seen Jeffrey Combs in anything yet. Because keep in mind, I'm 20 years old when this story happens. So I don't know about Reanimator. I don't know all the other work he's done. The Frighteners hadn't come out yet. Like, I don't know any of his stuff. And so I only knew him as Dr. Mordrid. So when everyone starts going bananas of my horror friends are like, oh man, yeah, you got to see this movie Reanimator. And, they would show me the DVD or whatever, or the VHS, probably more likely VHS in those days. And I go, oh, hey, Dr. Mordrid's in this. And they were like, what? What are you talking about?
You have to understand, Sean, there are two types of people in the world. There are people that when they hear Hans Gruber, they think of Die Hard. And there are people that when they hear Hans Gruber, they think of Reanimator. So you got to know which one of those types you want.
Well, I'm far more on the Die Hard side of things.
Everybody is. There's really only one type of person. That second type doesn't exist.
So when we get around to start our podcast here, I literally had it on my list of like things of like eventually maybe we can see this thing, and things looked really good with Doll Man. Like Doll Man, your guys' response to Doll Man, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Because
we found two suckers here that are at least when you're in that late 80s, early 90s kind of full moon, it's like, all right, they weren't on either side of the like great or awful scale. They were kind of like in that nice middle.
Right.
In all fairness, this is our third full moon movie. He didn't wedge it in right from the get-go.
That's true.
Right.
Could have done it
and
all
also
the way
for
back.
The record, I prefer full moon over Trauma any day of the week. So that makes me an outlier.
But and I get it, and I understand why. And also, it's not problematic. Like the full moon stuff isn't problematic. Where so much of the Trauma stuff, you're just like, ooh, geez.
And I have been accused of showing favoritism to my friends, and in a weird way, Full Moon is kind of one of my friends.
Not you.
Oh, very good.
That's not what you do. You don't have that. That's not a reputation that's ever come around here. What are you talking about?
So what surprises me about all of this is that, Adam, you had never heard of this.
No, and I'm a fan of Jeffrey Combs, and when it was just like, oh, he's in this and playing the Doctor Strange character, I thought that's a very interesting choice, and I love him in everything that he's in because he's just one of those guys. He came from theater and stuff, so he has that kind of theater background, then went into movies and stuff. And if you look at the cast of this movie, it's all TV people. It's because they want to get these people in that have like TV and theater experience that go, you can learn these lines. We're going to get in here. We're going to shoot this bad boy fast and turn it all around. But they're always just, reliable people. They're TV people that just goes, I got to learn a new script every week. This is just one. I can do it. No problem.
Other than the one scene that had nudity in it, this feels like a made-for-TV movie from
without a doubt.
Oh, surely they could cut that little tiny bit out there. It doesn't really affect the story one way or the other, and boom, TV.
And there is a lot to recommend this movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, dear listener. This
that nude scene's not bad at all. No, it's a pretty good one.
It's a long, extended nude scene. More, like full.
And surprisingly attractive for a low-budget film.
Oh, yes, for sure. I'm like, usually it's just somebody like, well, we got her down at the local.
She should be doing nude scenes in major studio productions.
You're going to go up to at least a double-A movie studio after this one, sister. You're going to go on.
But don't get me wrong, dear listener. This is not a good movie. This is a bad movie. But the thing is that this is a good bad movie.
It's short, which is a good thing.
I mean, it's an hour and 14 minutes with commercials.
So that's 74 minutes, and I'm going to tell you, the first 60 minutes are pretty boring. But once the stop motion starts, it's kind of cool. Like I went from so bored out of my mind to loving this movie when the stop motion started at the end. Like they should have opened with some stop motion.
Well, what about when they're on that other world island in the sky where the guy has his eyes taken away? That didn't get you?
That actually did. I like the guy without his eyes. And then when the poor man's Peter Hooton, Jeffrey Combs, man, how would Jeffrey Combs feel if he heard me call him?
He'd reach to the internet and punch you right in the face because my word.
I'll tell you,
Peter Hooton is awesome. That's the problem.
Well, you have already stated you like the things you like and nothing else matters. But like, here's the thing with Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs has something that Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't have. And it's that there is like an air of menace to Jeffrey Combs as Doctor Strange that there isn't to Benedict Cumberbatch. you're never afraid of Benedict Cumberbatch,
I think we can all agree that Jeffrey Combs is a better actor with more star power than Benedict Cumberbatch. Nobody's arguing with that.
Right.
But neither of them have the way Peter Hooton could throw a football, and you knew he had never thrown a football in his life until they showed that scene. Like Peter Hooton just has something that nobody else can have, which is just totally being the wrong person for that role, but it works beautifully because of that.
But the cool part about Jeffrey Combs is he plays smart and menacing, that combination really well in a whole bunch of roles that he does. And so he's that person to go to where we need somebody serious, but is also kind of credible enough. Not like he's leading man, but he's not like a giant leading man. If you go back and look at Reanimator, he wasn't the main character of Reanimator.
All joking aside, I feel like Jeffrey Combs is a really, really solid theatrical actor who takes his craft seriously and just got a few bad breaks.
Yes.
Like he seems way above the roles he gets, but because he got the roles he gets, they're the only roles he's going to get in the future kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know hard.
I don't know if you remember this or not, Adam, but when he became like a series regular on one of the Star Treks, I can't remember which one. I think it's Enterprise, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's Enterprise.
And basically everybody was out on that show. Like every Star Trek nerdy nerd was totally out on that show until Jeffrey Combs shows up, and then a bunch of my Star Trek nerd friends were like, you know what? I'm going to give this another chance, I think. So one of the things that we have to bring up, because you brought it up at the top of the show here, Adam, is what is clearly not the Sanctum Sanctorum. Let's call it what it is. It is, but it isn't. It's the Sanctum Sanctorum. It's the giant map on the wall. The only thing that's missing is the T-Rex skeleton and a giant penny. I mean, this is basically all that's missing.
So great. Like that
It has just a touch of TARDIS to it because there's no way that those interiors and the exteriors in the hallway were the same building.
No, unless they were in the same sound stages that they created both sets on.
But it's got a little bit of TARDIS to it, which I guess is supposed to be the point, though they could have made that point a little more clear.
I also do love the idea that your landlord lives in this palatial thing while you're in some crap old apartment,
the best
2 doors
down,
down, walking in going, what is this? You have 25-foot ceilings in here. What?
There's also that is a major problem for me too, because when the love interest shows up finally in his apartment, I guess you'd call it
palatial apartment.
She doesn't drop everything and then just stare in awe at the vastness of his place.
It's like it's only slightly bigger than he's got 200 more square feet than she does. That's the response she gives.
This building has 75 units and they're all exactly like his.
Her reaction is like the reaction that some people have when you go to your buddy's hotel room and you're staying in the same hotel and you're like, oh, yours is a little bit bigger than mine.
Hey, my bathroom's on the other side. Huh.
That's basically what her reaction is when she shows up there.
And when she sees a crow in this house, it's just like, oh, well, there he is. That's a thing that's normal in people's homes. No response.
Pet crow, and it's like it's a cute little doggy. She's like, oh, how adorable, or something.
Yeah,
she is
cute.
all about the pet crow.
It's cute to her.
now, real life, an adult woman in a big city goes into a guy's apartment, and it's just her and him. She sees the crow. She finds an excuse to leave. She texts her friends to let her know where she's at, because you go into a strange guy's apartment, he's got a pet crow. There's a greater than 0 chance that he wants to murder you.
Well, it's greater than 0 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the question, though. It's where is she dropping off this rent check, right? Because we find out that he's the landlord, and that's the reason why he has the palatial estate and everybody else is living in, Section 9 over here. Do you just mail it in? I always just gave it to the person to the landlord, right?
Oh, I never want to make eye contact with my filthy landlord back when I was renting. I always mailed it in, or there would be a drop box, but no, there's no way I want to make eye contact.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have maybe I've had apartments with like good looking people that are at the behind the desk, and that's why I go in.
Oh, I've always had.
I think I may just put that together.
I always had people that look like the chef from You Can't Do That on Television. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, Barf.
I think his name was Barf. Yeah, that's
no,
what
it's
my
not
landlord-
Barf. It's not with the F. It's TH.
Okay, Barth. That has always been my landlord. Is Barth.
So one of the things that they keep hinting at right away, right at the top of the movie, is that Dr. Mordrid is much older than he looks.
Yeah.
Because he has that line where he goes, and keep in mind, movie is from 1992, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 92 is what I saw.
And they're like, they say that New York City was a nice place to live 100 years ago. And he goes, it was. Oh, it was 100 years ago. First of all,
Bill the Butcher in Gangs of New York.
That's exactly where I'm going. First of all, no, it is not. Also, people dropping their poop out of windows from buckets. No, thank you. Depends on what part of New York you're in and how much money you have.
Countryside. Beautiful.
And I got it on, I've got some good information that tells me poop dropping still happens occasionally.
Mm.
Oh, boy.
Mm. So you're whispering Vine still in your ear. Good. and it was one of those moments where I was like, yes, we get it. He's old. And they keep bringing it up over and over and over again. How he's much, much older than you think
You've
that he
got
looks.
this old book here. How do you have this old book? Well, you know.
And I didn't realize this. I've seen this movie. I've only seen this movie once, I think, before this week. But I didn't realize that that Richard Band is the composer of all the music for Dr. Mordrid. So is he the composer for everything that is Full Moon?
A good
Is
number.
he related to Charles and Albert?
Yeah. It's a family affair over there, baby. All the bands.
And here's another question that I had for you. And maybe you know the answer to this, maybe you don't, and it's unfair, and I'm putting you on the spot here at it, and I'm sorry about that. So do the bands own a castle?
That I don't know.
You know why I'm
Certainly
asking
hope
you
so.
Well, you know why I'm asking you this question.
Does the castle show up in all their movies?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of.
And not only does it show up in all their movies, but it's like, even when there probably shouldn't be a castle, there's a castle in it.
Yeah, it's like that exploding car in all the Troma films.
So here's what I think. I don't think they own a castle. I think they know of a castle that nobody keeps an eye on. So they just keep using it.
We got really long lenses for a reason, guys. Just stay on the outside and shoot in.
And you know, I'm just to start at the top, because we've already talked about the Sanctum Sanctorum or whatever we want to call it. But the next thing we see is a quote armored truck, end quote, which is the most hilariously awful, clearly not an armored truck that they tried to make look like an armored truck.
One of the best points of the early film.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I love that stuff.
Oh my God, it's just so great. And I mean, it looks like a high school production. It looks like they're like, Jimmy's got a van. Let's take some tinfoil and put it over windows.
And I hate to beat the same drum over and over again, but I miss this era where it took a lot of hard work to make a bad movie. Like now, when everybody's got a camera in their pocket, and I can go on YouTube and I can get an armored car green screen thing that I can do my own CGI armored car. But like in 1992, you still had to get out there and put tinfoil around a van and try to convince people this was an armored. Like, I miss these days when things like Full Moon, when people would work so hard. Like this movie cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this movie. Like, I miss that era. Like now you can make a really bad movie for almost nothing. Mm-hmm. I really miss back when people had to do these terrible stop motion and practical effects. I just miss this era so bad.
And here's the best part about like the armored car. The armored car is great, but you get the letters at the bottom of the screen that says Rio de Janeiro. But just in case you didn't know that you were in Rio de Janeiro, the side of the armored car says Banco de Rio. Just in
Banco
case,
de Rio.
Perfect.
just in case you forgot.
Now, I am not real good with geography, but that like Jesus on the hill, that gigantic statue of Jesus,
Uh-huh.
isn't that in Sao Paulo and not Rio?
That is the movie's
just
Welcome
Brazil
to
establishing
Brazil.
shot.
Exactly. That is Welcome
it's
to
like they
Brazil.
say, welcome to Chicago, and show you the Washington Monument.
Yeah, Eiffel Tower. It's all the same. It's the same
like,
thing.
welcome to Provence, and they show you Paris. I get it, because I would do that. Like if I had a character going to Provence in France, I would still show the Eiffel Tower in Paris, so they know we're in France.
They're like, oh, okay, I know what. At least know what country I'm in. So that's all they would need to know. Like for us, they would just show like an IHOP or something.
And also, it's very possible that Jesus on the hill is in Rio. Like I said, it may not be in Sao Paulo, because I do not know my geography well.
Hey, where are all our Brazilian listeners at? HearMoviePodcast@gmail.com.
Also,
know.
we get a very young Brian Thompson in this movie.
Brian Thompson is great, and he's one of those where I was just like going like, where do I know this cat from? And of course, it had to be X-Files. He was just in a crap ton of X-Files ones. That's the main one that I remember him from.
Yes, pretty great. He's always going to give you that same performance, but what he does is what he does.
It's not bad. It's what you're looking for. It's
so this 5'2" version of Tia Carrere, because Tia Carrere is tall. And the lady in this movie that has the nude scene is not tall, but like she honestly seemed like she should have enough to have been on Baywatch or something. Was she on something else? Like, I'm not saying she would be like a big star, but she really has like you were saying earlier, Sean, these people have that TV feel. Like I could see her being like one of the cute girls on Baywatch.
I having never seen Baywatch, I don't know.
Like,
how about Baywatch Nights?
He's more of a Baywatch Nights kind of guy.
Well, yes. I believe I've seen more Baywatch Nights than the both of you, and I haven't seen it. I
remember those promos.
She does seem to be. I mean, it seems like she probably could have done more. I don't know, maybe, but in a lot of cases, when it comes to someone like this, there's a lot of times that if you are a very attractive person, male or female, you end up with a producer and you don't have to work anymore.
Yeah, that was what worked out for me.
And if you're Brian Thompson, it's just you just take that shirt off and you just get that job, because that guy was just jacked.
He was.
Now, still is saying that this has like that TV feel to it. The guy that plays Cabal really seems like he could have been a supporting character on Hercules: The Extraordinary Journeys or whatever with Kevin Sorbo.
Well, that's Brian Thompson.
Oh,
Brian,
is that? I didn't know his name. Okay, yeah, you take the shirt off, you got the job. I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah, Brian Thompson has done a lot, man. Like he seems like
someone who should have done a lot.
He's in Terminator. He's in a lot of stuff. Like the 80s were a good time for him. In the 90s, he would go back and forth between TV and movies constantly.
Like with people like Jeffrey Combs and Thompson that we were just talking about, and some of the other characters, like I feel like Full Moon is a union job, unlike Troma, which is non-union.
Right.
Like this feels like it's at least like I said, the quality feels higher, and it feels like everybody's working for scale, but it's union scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not doubt it. Or like a tier 1 project sort of thing. So I've got to bring this up. It would be unfair not to. A lot of people right now are probably asking themselves, do I think, because I don't like Doctor Strange very much. I don't like that character very much. So do I think Dr. Mordrid is a better movie than Doctor Strange? Oh. And all I'll say is that I never saw Doctor Strange get a standing ovation after giving a 5-minute lecture centered around common facts about the moon.
You know what? Point taken. Nobody can dare argue with that.
And when Jeffrey Combs as Doctor Strange, as Dr. Mordrid is on that stage and he starts spouting common known facts about the moon at the end of his lecture, about a 5-minute lecture, everyone stands up in the audience and applauds.
They're happy because it was over so quickly.
It could be. Now we get to drink all weekend. It was, but like it made me laugh so hard. Like, like because it's Jeffrey Combs, so he's speaking in that way where everything has importance no matter what he's saying.
Yep.
And the moon affects people's personalities.
Yeah, but think about this.
You've clearly heard of it must have been a full moon. Like that kind of thing.
In fact, that's why many of you are here right now. And I got a great laugh.
Oh, yeah, a great laugh line. Stop.
Tore the house down.
It is one of those that you watch and you're just like, I would have killed for audiences like this, where you can just walk in and everything is just a laugh out loud riot to these people. And you're like, is there a leak in here? What's going on?
It feels like one of those TED Talks where every single person in the audience is related to the speaker. Like, that's kind of what it feels like. 'Cause you've seen those. I know you have.
It's a graduation and that whole group just, yeah, woo.
So this is a very... I guess I'd say it's a very serious question here that I want to know the answer to. Did Men in Black totally rip this movie off with their neuralizer?
No.
Because this came before Men in Black and it's got a neuralizer, basically.
Right, but I'm very certain that that is just a common thing throughout sci-fi.
Yeah,
I feel like
know.
Men in Black watched this movie and they said, okay, everybody, we have to reshoot the whole thing. We're going back to square one now that I've seen this.
The full moon guys are a lot. The one thing I would never accuse them of is being hyper creatives.
We just said ginger dead man and decided to make it a thing. So, we just kind of take what comes to us and go with it.
Yeah, I would imagine, since they are so much take a little from column A, take a little from column B guys, they found it from somewhere also.
Well, can we talk about the elephant in the room?
Which is?
I don't remember.
How in the world did Full Moon get the Doctor Strange license in the first place? Like,
my guess is this. My guess is that, there is that time in the like late 80s, early 90s where Marvel was it wasn't like the wholesale dumping like they did later with Spider-Man and stuff. It was more like let's try to garner interest by selling movie rights to characters.
Yeah, get their
like
kind
the
of
Punisher,
name out
Dolph
there.
Lundgren Punisher.
Exactly. And so this is part of that. You had the Captain America movie, you had the Punisher. Like Doctor Strange is in there, and there's something else I don't remember what. I think it's actually Spider-Man.
I still feel like the Punisher movie, as bad as it was, and the Matt Salinger Captain America, as bad as it was, were both higher profile than this. Like, weren't they canon films? Which is, canon is canon, but it's higher profile than Full Moon. Like, I'm just kind of surprised. But then again, they also lost the rights before they made the movie. And one thing I'll say about Full Moon is they do not spend a ton of time in pre-production. So they must have lost those rights quickly.
So I think that's what we're talking about here. I think it's during that time where they were like, hey, let's garner interest in our characters and we'll get a bunch of movies made. And then back-to-back failures with both Captain America and the Punisher. Oh, and of course the Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
the Corman version.
Right, that was there. That's in that too. That's in that lot also.
Yeah, just give it to somebody who will buy it for next to nothing, and then maybe the big dogs will see that hey, some of these underdogs are looking at this stuff. Maybe that's something we should be interested in. It's a play that's commonly done for sure.
Yeah.
The thing that I was surprisingly, because like when you think about
I do love though knowing, and I apologize for cutting you off there, Adam. I just had to get this out.
No.
I do love knowing the background of this movie, that the opening title card that says "From an entirely original idea" by Charles Band. You guys caught that, right?
Yes.
I did not, but that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's what it says. From a totally original idea by Charles Band.
That's brilliant.
It's like a parenthetical. Swear to God, we didn't steal this from nobody. But with Full Moon Pictures, you can like I said, you can get that like all over the map depending upon what kind of movie that you get from them.
Yeah.
Especially like today, you are really looking at like lowest kind of rung sort of stuff. Maybe not lowest rung.
I wouldn't say that. It does get worse than this.
Maybe two rungs from the bottom. You know, there's still a couple of steps down for you.
I've always felt like Full Moon is the best of the worst, not the worst of the best. If that makes any sense.
Well, you know, all art is subjective, and for some reason, this hits you harder than other things do, Bruce. I think because they're actually making a movie. You know, like there's a lot of things that we've seen, like man, I can't pull anything off the top of my brain pan here, but like something like the Ginger Dead Man, where it's like it's a rough watch, that movie.
Yes, it is. It is.
Whereas something like this movie, like it legitimately feels like, yes, this is really cheap, but it's also really fun because they don't make movies like this anymore.
Well, I think
this feels very much to me like a more recent version of Puma Man. Like it feels like it's right in that vein.
Yes.
The thing with this is in that you see what I think with the other Full Moon pictures, no matter what their kind of budget and scale is and everything, is there tends to be a level of sincerity to it.
Yes.
You don't feel like they're, kind of, they're trying to make as good a film as they can with the resources that are available to them.
And I think that's why I prefer Full Moon to Trauma, because Trauma, they say, hey, we're making garbage and we know it. And Full Moon is like, we're going to do the best we can with what we got.
Yeah, even if it's not great, it's like, but at the same time, too, they know what their kind of ratio is, how much money they can spend versus how much money they're going to get back in, whatever sales and stuff. And I'm sure it's all very different now, but some scheme of that is still relevant today.
And maybe I'm just projecting this onto Full Moon, Adam, but correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like right around like the mid to late 90s is where Full Moon starts throwing ironic detachment into their stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas the earlier stuff to me is always the better stuff because it's done unironically.
Yeah, I think that's actually true. I would call that a true statement. Because for me, it's like the older the stuff that you kind of get and everything like this, because it makes it feel like they actually care. They've thrown some money into it. When this special effects happen in this, when all of the laser fingers and whatnot, it looks pretty decent for what this film cost.
For what it is, yes. I would agree with that.
It's not bad. Like when he walks through, like there's a lot of production design that's going on in this, some of it a little bit cheesy or whatever. But at the same time, too, he's got to walk through a giant door with a humongous light coming out. And like, that's not super cheap for these small budget films and stuff to get all of that kind of stuff.
Of course, they can't do Jurassic Park level CGI, but the Harryhausen inspired stop motion, it was state of the art in 1985. This movie 7 years after that, but they legitimately did the stop motion that took effort. Whether you like it or not, that took effort and time to do that.
It's not bad. That stop motion is not terrible. That whole fight scene and like when the fact that the Triceratops just smashes him into his chest and like lifts him up and stuff. He ate a guy, for heaven's sake.
Oh, man. I love it when the T-Rex grabbed the security guard and it went straight to Robot Chicken, though. I mean, like that security guard looked like Robot Chicken.
But it was kind of great. I love that.
That's my favorite part of the whole movie. Don't get me wrong. They could use more of that.
It also turns it into something far goofier than what we've been watching, which is great. It is the reason why I'm watching this movie. Is Brian
tonal shift
and just some of the dialogue that comes out of Brian Thompson's mouth. I have a couple of things written down here, which is just glorious. If you guys don't mind,
please.
Yes, I want to hear it.
Platinum is the sister of gold.
Oh, yes. That's a great one. I love that so much. It's like, what does that mean?
Give me your powers. I command it. This is like Skeletor level dialogue here. You've had over 100 Earth years to prepare for this. Get out of here.
Not Saturn years. These are
outta
Earth
here.
years. Don't get them confused, you idiot.
It's those are my three favorites. It just so everything about this movie is exactly like my kind of thing, and I get that it's not for everybody, but it's totally for me. And it's one of those things where, like, you know, you sit down and watch a bad movie, and you really hope. For me, I really hope it's something like this when I'm watching, and it's so rare when it is like this that when you find something, you're like, oh, that is gold right there, and this is part of that.
Yeah, it's for the band stuff, I want to say, I'm trying to think, I was not blown away by most of the music. Sometimes those guys will get themes in there and stuff that's like, oh, that's not too bad, or there's a shade of something in there that works. Music for this was almost completely unmemorable at all. It's just meh.
Oh yeah, but you know, they're trying to make it a superhero score, and you can't without the money. You can't be as bombastic as you.
Yeah, they're sort of trying to copycat instead of doing their own craziness, and I think that goes to the detriment of this film in many parts. They don't get crazy till the end, and that's when I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just the floating house and everything. The guy with the who got the ferryman eyes on and everything like
so
that.
Wonderful.
It's so cool. And again, he's one of those that Rich Brinkley, the guy that plays the guard there and everything. Another one of those. I've been in 8 billion television programs and all that kind of stuff. So just the guy who plays the what do you call it? The little detective, not the cop guy, but the morgue guy that drinks the milkshake and spills it all on himself.
Oh yeah, the bald guy.
The bald guy, John Peashley. Yeah.
Right.
He's another one of those. He is in 8 gajillion things and is like from Point Break to The Kid with Bruce Willis. So like he's in like everything. 96 credits for that dude. So these dudes work and work and work.
In your estimation, though, with this film, having seen it and thinking about the pace of the movie, the story, the plot, it needs to move forward, did they spend too much, just right, or not enough time with Dr. Mordrid in jail?
I mean, honestly, look, even just the full weight of the movie itself and the amount of time that it takes, it's not bad. Like, I think it's just about perfect. It doesn't keep you for too long. And like you said, Bruce, when you get to that third act and everything, at least that joint, you know, gets up really high there and just goes like, oh, we're all of this stuff is happening right now, and finishes out on a decent note and everything. And they tried to make a sequel to this, for heaven's sake.
I was going to ask if they did, because Full Moon has a pretty low threshold for sequels and crossovers. Oh, yeah. Like Doll Man meets Dr. Mordrid. I can see that.
Yeah, or you will throw in. I'm telling you, this sounds like the stupidest thing. Is like, no, that would never happen. You would throw Evil Bong in there for some reason, but they do that. That's what they do over there at Full Moon now. They're just going like, throw Evil Bong in there and Ginger Dead Man. I know it has nothing to do with any of this stuff, but that's what we do.
I think the mitigating circumstance here is Jeffrey Combs. I think that Jeffrey Combs isn't fighting Evil Bong.
Yeah, well,
not unless you give him enough money.
Yeah, you got to back it up a little bit.
So dare you recast Dr. Mordrid?
And I also forgot the most important my most important note of the viewing of this, which is that if you wanted to see what my long-term girlfriend looked like in the 90s, it is the detective not detective. It is the woman who works for the police that is the love interest. Yes. Yeah. That is literally what my long-term girlfriend in the 90s looked like.
If you want to know what my long-term girlfriend in the 90s looked like, just picture Lilith from Cheers. But let's move on.
Bebe Newert.
So just so you know, the latest thing that the bands have brought us here is a movie called Famous TNA 2.
That sounds scandalous.
It says, get ready for the world premiere of Famous TNA 2, an all-new hot compilation of clips from a cavalcade of movies featuring today's fetching female stars.
Get out of here.
It's hosted by Diana Prince, you may know as Darcy the Mail Girl on Joe Bob and everything. So a lot of TNA in that
also
film.
you may not know this, also the secret identity of Wonder Woman.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that's where that came from.
Oh,
All right, before we get to our final grade here and everything, we have to find out how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Hello, Mr. Stallone. Is it me you're looking for? You know, I hate to complain, but I couldn't help but notice that dude who has a podcast about how Tom Hanks fired him from Band of Brothers actually got to speak to Tom Hanks recently. And he's been doing his show for 3 years. Maybe it's because he's super connected and he has famous friends and talent, but this is year 8, Buster. We haven't heard a peep from you or your people. If you want to get in touch with me, it's super easy. I have a Twitter account and an email. Have your people reach out. I'm available. Anyway, this week's movie called Dr. Mordrid is connected to you by way of actor Brian Thompson. You may remember him because he acted alongside you as the night slasher in your movie Cobra. Yeah. When you look back at that movie, do you remember the experience as a good one? I only ask because people have a lot to say about you specifically behind the camera on that set. And in my own experiences, when I think I'm having a good time, people tell me much, much later that I was being a giant toolbox. Now, in case you don't remember, you played Detective Marion Cobretti in that movie, a cop who doesn't like to play by the rules. I haven't seen it in a long while, but I think that even your police captain says that exact line to you. But I could be remembering it wrong. Marion Cobretti is still the best character name you've had in any film. And you also cut pizza with scissors for some reason. That feels like something that you might have added, am I right? It's important to add flair to your character. And there's nothing more flaring than a dude cutting pizza with scissors. Brian Thompson is the night slasher, and Cobra is pretty great. He always brings the same energy to his roles, which is big dude that probably wants to murder you. And he brought that same suitcase with him to the movie Cobra. Brian Thompson has been kicking around Hollywood for a very long time. He's currently in 2 movies in production right now, and he got his start in 1984 on the show Hardcastle and McCormick, which is about a judge and a guy who drives a red sports car. And in case you didn't know, he's also in this movie called The Terminator, which is a movie about a robot with an Austrian accent trying to murder a waitress. No, Brian Thompson has ping-ponged for years between movies and television with roles on shows like CSI and on movies like Mortal Kombat and Dragonheart. And there's a movie that he even wrote, starred, and directed called The Expendables, which in absolutely no way has anything to do with your franchise, The Expendables. It stars Brian Thompson and Mark DeCostas and Martin Kove and Patrick Warburton. I think it's supposed to be a parody. I'm not entirely sure. Brian Thompson's had quite the career, even if he isn't a household name, and he's this week's Stallone connection. I hope to hear from you soon. Like, seriously, we've been on computer radio for a really long time talking about you and haven't heard anything. Your pal, Sweetie from the Sweet to Sweet.
Alrighty, here at Hear Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Head on over to reddit.com/r/Hear Movie Podcast. Right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, where does Dr. Mordrid fall on the Robin rating system for you?
So this is our 3rd full moon movie. And I got to say that it comes in 3rd place because for me, I enjoyed Dollman a lot more than this. I enjoyed Ginger Dead a lot more than this because the absurdity happens a little earlier and a little more often in those films. And if you're watching a full moon movie, you want that absurdity. Of course, this wasn't planned to be an absurd film. It was planned to be a serious superhero movie, but thank goodness it still gets absurd because they can't help themselves over Full Moon. But still, you know, being 3rd out of 3 from Full Moon isn't a ringing endorsement. But I'm still going to give it a Damian Wayne just for the stop motion at the end.
A little bit of slight praise and slight damnation at the same time. Good job. Sean?
Oh, this is a Dick Grayson for me. This was such a joy to watch. I love what I would consider to be Easter eggs in this movie, where just over and over again, just bringing the thunder with whether it's the bad dialogue or the crazy, like, this is an armored car, wink, wink. We are in Rio de Janeiro, clearly, wink, wink.
Here's this shot of New York. Look at how we paid for this stock footage of this helicopter going through the city. We paid for that.
And it just over and over again, it just pays off. And it's the rarest of rare where it is a bad movie that is just really fun to watch. And for me, it's a Dick Grayson.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how good this thing was. I was really prepared for something terrible. And then it's just like, I did have to remember, Jeffrey Combs is just kind of a magnanimous sort of dude. And when he's on screen, you can't help but kind of be into what he's doing. And he's doing it with so much darn sincerity that you just have to go along with him. And it does that for this movie. And honestly, when you compare this to like the Peter Hoot and Doctor Strange, this is a better movie by like every stretch of the imagination.
Better.
This
Far
is
better.
Really good.
There's not a minute and a half scene where they're just watching, I think, Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
The big villain is not a Hoover vacuum cleaner.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know.
Things actually happen in this. There's actual special effects and not people just falling down on sidewalks or whatever the heck was happening in that movie. It was just awful. But this is a lot of fun, and honestly, it's on Tubi. Like, you could do a lot worse. I had a blast with it. It's a Tim Drake for me, very high Tim Drake, but yeah, it was a blast, man. Well, that is it, everybody. We got another week under our belts here. I don't even think, did we talk about what we want to do next week? Because we've got our Patreon vote, but that's a week ahead. We didn't talk about. Well, guess what? We're going to, if you're a supporter of our Patreon, you're going to hear us debate what we're talking about next week in the post show. So that's how all that works. Ooh, behind the scenes stuff. In the meantime, though, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Lots of anime reactions and reviews. And check out one of my other podcasts, Anime IO, where we had a lot of fun talking about prison and pickled eggs this week. So if you haven't checked out Anime IO in a while, check it out. Matthew Vandiver gave me some of the best laughs I've had in a while when we were discussing Pokemon, pickled eggs in prison.
Man, if that'll sell you on that episode right there, I don't know what will.
Have you no heart?
I was like, well, I know what I'm doing after this. All right. Sean, what else?
We have a show called 30 Questions where each week we are reviewing something week by week that is a nerdy property. And the next one coming up is, what are we doing? Are we doing Moon Knight?
Moon
are we
Knight's
doing
next.
Obi-Wan?
Yeah,
Moon Knight's
we're
next.
doing those two.
Wow.
We'll be doing both of those. Now,
So
thankfully,
then there won't be a hero movie podcast then?
Well,
it'll just be those two things?
No, it's
June 3rd, The Boys Season 3.
Yeah. So,
wow, so it's
coming hard and
30
fast.
question shows, so no hero movie podcast.
well,
then?
they won't all be at the same time. So at least Obi-Wan's later. Obi-Wan's a little
see.
later, so
I
that
see.
shouldn't be a problem there.
Yeah, it's May the 4th.
They're smart enough to kind of go, we don't want to dump everything on everybody at one time. Disney's like, we got to make y'all pay for all 12 months of the year, you dig? So they're slowing it down just a little bit to make sure. I'm positive of that. So I don't know that there's going to be a lot of, at least at this point, Star Wars and Marvel shows going concurrently. So at least we
Right.
got our fingers crossed on that one.
And we're still debating whether or not to do Jupiter's Legacy 30 questions. So
Oh my!
stay tuned.
Do you want to? No. That is
Now,
it.
I say yes.
Well,
I love Jupiter's Legacy.
I did too. It was a lot better than anybody gave it credit.
I am lying. That show was
I liked
straight
it.
hot
Two-
garbage.
2 animated spin-offs are on Netflix now. So
Well, there we go.
take that for what it's worth.
They went all in for about 20 minutes on that thing.
Anime's
Or Mark
coming
Miller.
up soon. Who's to say? That is it, everybody. Join us next week for whatever we discuss in the post show for Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Another Saturday night and I ain't got nobody. I got some money 'cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had someone to talk to. I'm in an awful way. Dig this. I got in town a month ago. I seen a lot of girls since then. If I could meet them, I could get them. But as yet I haven't met them. That's why I'm in the shape I'm in. Here another Saturday night and I ain't got nobody. I got some money 'cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had someone to talk to. I'm in an awful way. Now another fella told me Paris, she had a strange resemblance to a cat named Frankenstein. Here another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money, cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had some shit to talk to. I'm in an awful way, yeah. It is another weekend, I ain't got nobody. Man, if I was back home, I'd be swinging 2 chicks on my arm. Oh, yeah. Listen to me, huh? It's hard on a fella when he don't know his way around. If I don't find me a honey to help me spend my money, I'm gonna have to blow this town. Here it's another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money, cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had some chick to talk to. I'm in an awful, everybody sang another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money, cause I just got paid.